The internet whispers about a place called the Backrooms, a hidden place shrouded in mystery and fear, a place beyond the edges of reality where the rules of our world no longer apply, a place where people vanish without a trace, leaving behind only questions and fear. Those unlucky few who no clip through the fabric of our world find themselves trapped in a nightmarish labyrinth. They become prisoners in an endless maze of empty rooms, each one more unsettling than the last. The backrooms are a purgatory of yellowed walls, buzzing fluorescent lights, and the unsettling hum of distant machinery. The air is thick with a sense of foreboding. It is a place of quiet dread, where the very air feels heavy with despair. Every corner turned reveals more of the same, an endless repetition that gnaws at the soul. The legend of the Backrooms is a chilling one, spreading like a virus through online forums and whispered conversations. It captures the imagination and instills a deep-seated fear. Some dismiss it as mere creepypasta, a digital ghost story meant to give internet users chills. They laugh it off, thinking it's just another internet myth. Others, however, believe it to be something far more sinister. They claim to have seen the Backrooms, to have felt its oppressive atmosphere. They believe the Backrooms are real, a hidden dimension that exists just out of sight, waiting to ensnare the unwary. The truth remains elusive, but the fear is very real. Alex was an urban explorer, drawn to the mysteries hidden within forgotten places. From a young age, he had always been fascinated by the stories old buildings could tell. The peeling paint, the broken windows, and the eerie silence of these places spoke to him in ways that modern structures never could. He sought out the abandoned and the derelict, documenting his explorations on his YouTube channel, Urban Descent. His followers eagerly awaited each new video, captivated by the blend of history, mystery, and a touch of danger that Alex brought to his content. His channel had grown rapidly, and with each new subscriber, his drive to uncover the unknown only intensified. He had explored crumbling factories, abandoned hospitals, and deserted subway tunnels, always seeking the next adrenaline rush, the next story to tell. Each location had its own unique atmosphere, its own secrets waiting to be uncovered. The thrill of stepping into the past, of walking through spaces that had been forgotten by time, was an addiction he couldn't shake. When he stumbled upon the legend of the Backrooms, he knew he had found his next adventure. The Backrooms were said to be an endless maze of randomly generated rooms, a place where reality seemed to bend and twist. The stories were bizarre and unsettling, filled with accounts of people who had supposedly found themselves trapped in this nightmarish labyrinth. Alex was skeptical, of course. He prided himself on his rational mind, his ability to separate fact from fiction. He had debunked many urban legends in the past, exposing them as mere myths or exaggerations. But the Backrooms were different. The sheer volume of stories, the consistency of the descriptions, and the eerie photos that accompanied them made him pause. Yet, there was something about the Backrooms that intrigued him. The idea of a place that existed just beyond the edges of reality, a place that defied the laws of physics and logic, was too compelling to ignore. It was a challenge, a puzzle that begged to be solved. And Alex loved puzzles. The sheer eeriness of the images, the unsettling descriptions, the possibility that it could be real, it all ignited a fire in his imagination. He decided to investigate, armed with his camera, flashlight, and an insatiable curiosity. Alex set out to uncover the truth behind the legend of the Backrooms. Little did he know, this journey would be unlike any he had ever undertaken before. His search led him to the abandoned Mercy Hospital on the outskirts of the city. Locals told stories of people vanishing from the hospital, disappearing without a trace. They whispered about strange noises emanating from within its dilapidated walls. It was the perfect place to start his investigation. As Alex stepped through the shattered doorway of the hospital, A cold shiver ran down his spine. The air inside was thick with the smell of decay and dust. The only light came from the slivers of sunlight that pierced through the cracks in the boarded-up windows. He could hear the wind whistling through the broken panes, creating an eerie, mournful sound. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he might find. He wandered through the desolate corridors, his camera light cutting through the darkness. The beam of light flickered occasionally, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Each step he took seemed to echo louder than the last, amplifying the emptiness around him. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the distant creaks and groans of the old building settling. The air grew colder, damper. A chill seeped into his bones, making him shiver involuntarily. He could feel the moisture in the air clinging to his skin, a stark contrast to the dry, dusty interior he had just left. The fog outside seemed to press against the windows, as if trying to find a way inside. The silence was broken only by the sound of his own footsteps echoing through the empty halls. Each step reverberated off the walls, creating a haunting symphony of loneliness. He paused for a moment, straining to hear any other sounds, but there was nothing. Just the relentless echo of his own presence. He rounded a corner and stopped, his breath caught in his throat as he saw a shadow move at the edge of his vision. He blinked, and it was gone. Was it just his imagination, or was there something else in this forsaken place? The hallway stretched before him, seemingly endless. It was as if the corridor was playing tricks on his mind, extending further and further with each step he took. The oppressive feeling of being trapped in an infinite loop began to weigh heavily on him. The walls were painted a sickly yellow, and the floor was covered in a worn, stained carpet. The color seemed to pulsate under the dim light, adding to the surreal atmosphere. He couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in on him, the space becoming more confined with each passing second. He felt a chill run down his spine. This place felt wrong. It was as if the very air was charged with a malevolent energy, making the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that unseen eyes were tracking his every move. He took a step back, intending to turn around, but his foot hit empty air. Panic surged through him as he realized he was teetering on the edge of a precipice that hadn't been there moments before. His arms flailed as he tried to regain his balance. He stumbled, falling backward, his heart pounding in his chest. The sensation of falling seemed to stretch on forever, a never-ending descent into darkness. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening, but there were no answers, only the relentless pull of gravity. He braced himself for impact, but instead of the cold, hard floor, he landed on soft carpet. The unexpected softness confused him, and he lay there for a moment, trying to catch his breath. The texture of the carpet was oddly comforting, a stark contrast to the terror he had just experienced. He looked around, his mind struggling to comprehend what had just happened. The hallway looked the same, yet different. It was as if he had been transported to a parallel version of the place he had just been in. The disorientation was overwhelming. He was still in the hallway, but it was different. The dimensions seemed off, the angles slightly skewed. It was as if reality itself had shifted, leaving him in a distorted version of the world he knew. The sense of unease grew stronger. The air was thick with the smell of stale air and something faintly metallic. It was a scent that made his stomach churn, adding to the growing sense of dread. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, but the air felt heavy and oppressive. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sickly yellow glow. The buzzing seemed to grow louder, a constant grating noise that set his teeth on edge. The light flickered intermittently, adding to the surreal, nightmarish quality of the place. He had entered the Backrooms, a place where reality was twisted, and the familiar became the unfamiliar. He knew he had to find a way out, but the path ahead was uncertain, filled with unknown dangers. The journey had only just begun. the monotony of madness. Panic welled up inside him, but he pushed it down. He had to stay calm. He had to find a way out. He started walking, his footsteps echoing through the endless corridors. He passed room after room, each one identical to the last: yellow walls, stained carpet, buzzing fluorescent lights. The monotony was maddening. Time lost all meaning. He couldn't tell how long he had been wandering. Hours? Days? The silence was broken only by the hum of the fluorescent lights and the sound of his own breathing. He began to feel a sense of dread creeping in, a feeling that he was not alone, that something was watching him. A glimpse of something sinister. He rounded a corner and saw it, a shadow lurking at the edge of his vision. It was tall and slender with long, spindly limbs. He couldn't make out any features, but he could feel its eyes on him. He froze, his breath catching in his throat. The shadow moved, gliding effortlessly towards him. He didn't hesitate. He turned and ran, his heart pounding in his chest. He could hear the creature behind him, its footsteps silent, but its presence undeniable. He ran blindly, his only thought to escape the creature's grasp. Desperate flight. He sprinted down the endless corridors, his lungs burning, his legs screaming for him to stop. But he couldn't stop. Not now. Not when the creature was so close. He could feel its hot, fetid breath on his neck. He spotted a doorway up ahead and lunged for it, throwing himself through the opening. He slammed the door shut behind him, his back pressed against the cold metal. He could hear the creature snarling on the other side, its frustration palpable. Back to reality. He slid down the door, his body trembling with exhaustion and fear. He didn't know how long he stayed there, huddled in the darkness. Eventually he gathered the courage to open the door. The hallway outside was gone. He was back in the hospital, standing in the same spot where he had fallen through reality. He stumbled out of the room, his legs shaky beneath him. He made his way out of the hospital, desperate to feel the sun on his skin, to breathe fresh air. He had escaped the backrooms, but something about the experience clung to him, a lingering sense of unease. A haunting reminder. Later that night, back in his apartment, he uploaded the footage from his camera. He watched in horror as he saw himself fall through reality, saw the endless yellow corridors, saw the shadowy creature. But as he watched the footage back, he noticed something chilling. In the reflection of his camera lens, just for a fleeting moment, he saw it. Another pair of eyes staring back at him from the darkness of the backrooms. He was never alone.